Hello, 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 hello. Welcome to Range Woman, the variety show. I am your host, Lala Angela Wayne. And today, I'm excited every single day, but today I'm extra excited. I'm extra excited because I'm actually introducing you guys to a very special person in my life. Also a very spiritual person, Athina Bailey. Wow, I think she's almost like my window to channeling. She taught me how to channel. She taught me how to Reiki. And she was also my business coach not too long ago. Athina is a business coach, as I said, a kinesiologist, a clairvoyant psychic, and she really specialized in supporting clients to achieve to activate their psychic abilities. But also, she's got this amazing belief that spiritual people are designed to be abundant. And that's actually going to be one of the questions I'm going to ask her about this belief, because it's actually quite different to what normal people would believe. Hello, Athina. How are you?
Hey, Lala. Thank you for having me on. Thank you for the introduction. That was so sweet. I was like, oh.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
So like I said, I'm going to ask you this question first because otherwise I'm going to forget. I have got a bit of a dory memory some days. You have this amazing belief that spiritual people are actually designed to live an abundant life and be supported by the universe. Whereas contrary to what a lot of spiritual people actually believe, I almost have this analogy. I think quite often light workers, we think that we're just like artists, right? We're meant to be broke.
Right.
So tell me about that.
So I believe like us entering the age of Aquarius, which is what we're really talking about 2012, we went through a massive change in our consciousness and in the way that we live. And in the age of Pisces, which was before that, we had all these amazing light workers, healers coming out, and all of them were, well, most of them were in scarcity. They weren't making much money. And that was the thing that was done. All of a sudden, enter age of Aquarius, and there was this, I believe, like spirit was like, it's not working. Light workers being broke, not accepting money is not working. We're not creating the kind of impact we want to. And I believe the age of Aquarius is where healers, light workers, psychics, coaches, anyone that's here to do the work, we're here to be abundant and to be supported. And I work with a lot of people around money, and no, I've never seen a client who has specifically in their contract, like in their soul contract, you're destined here to be poor. Like that's part of your learning. You're here to not make money. Almost no one has limitations in their soul contract on how much money they could make, which means essentially everyone is open to being like a multimillionaire if that's what they want. But we do have past life contracts, we do have ancestral wounds, we have collective consciousness beliefs, our own beliefs, and that's where the limitations exist and lie. But on a soul level, our spiritual team, whenever I connect to my client's spiritual team, whenever I connect to my spiritual team, they're always like, we want you to have money, we want you to be abundant, because when you're abundant, when you have money, you get to serve more people, you get to help more people. And so in the age of Aquarius that we're in now, we're stepping away from you can only be spiritual if you're poor, because we're realizing we can't help as many people if we don't have money. We can help a lot more people if we have the support in every single sense of the way, especially financially. And we can reach more people, impact more people, and live our purpose here in a greater way. So that's why I deeply believe that light workers are here to be abundant, and it's just about claiming and deciding it. And that's really all it is.
Wow, that's really powerful, right? So it's like you're moving your mindset from one of lack to one of abundance. Easier said than done. And that's actually a lot of hard work. But through that work, you get to be abundant.
Absolutely. And it's also, I do believe that, we can struggle to be wealthy. And I've seen I see it with people who enter a business that isn't their sole business, but they're like, this is a way for me to make money and it's kind of fun, but it's not soul aligned, right? People, they can still be successful, they can still make money, but it doesn't feel good. They don't enjoy it. They kind of, and we see it with women all the time. They climb the corporate ladder, they hit like their 40s, and then they're like, this doesn't light me up. This doesn't feel good. I'm successful like to the outside world, but I don't feel good, right? Because it's not soul aligned. And then they suddenly they pick something else up, and they're like, my soul feels so good, you know? And then they hit the same amount of money pretty quickly, and it feels good. And so I believe that, you know, we can kind of push and make money, but it's not supposed to be that way. We're supposed to work with the universal laws. We're supposed to be able to manifest it, magnetize it, listen to the guidance that we get from our spiritual team. You know, like my spiritual team says, you're going to launch this and you're going to make this much money. Or if I go, okay, which hasn't happened for a while, but if I'm like, okay, I need to like bring in $10,000, they're like, okay, this is how you're going to do it, because they want to support me. And so it's supposed to be easy, but we can still do it with brute force, but it's very masculine. It's not the way we're designed to actually receive and magnetize, which is like, this is the era that we're living in, where we have all of these tools available for us, for it to be easy and enjoyable.
I love that you said it's meant to be easy and enjoyable, because sometimes it can be really tiring when you're just like trying to push through and going against your design. And really, I've learned from you and a lot of the more feminine coaches, like, it doesn't really have to be that way. And it's not just spiritual work, right? It's the more that I learn to go into that ease and flow, go into my feminine energy, the more my corporate career has actually sort of blossomed as well. So it's like, it's everyday life. It's how us as females are designed to work, to manifest. So I want to ask you about this, and I know a lot of people are probably wondering. You talk about the age of Aquarius, you talk about the age of Pisces. How did that, what are they, and how did they just happen? Did you just wake up one day and go, oh yeah, I'm in this new age now?
Oh, I like that. So I am not an expert at the math, so I will do my best to explain it. But the person that I recommend like reading his work is he's really gone down into the maths. So I don't know if you have Gaia, he's on there. I don't know, you've heard of Gaia, haven't you?
Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure he's the guy that owns it and runs it, David Wilcock. But he has a lot of material about the actual like science and the different ancient cultures and how they calculated it. Now, I can't remember off of my head exactly what the cycle is, but I think it's like every 100,000. Actually, I don't know what the number is at all, but there's a cycle essentially that happens. And just like we have the universal out breath and the in breath, and we go through these cycles, and they have been there since the beginning of time. And these cycles, they take a long time. And, you know, as we look back into ancient Earth history, we see these cultures that were thriving, and that was the out breath. And then with the in breath, it's like it collapses, and we go through the medieval times. And now we're beginning to breathe out again, and we're entering the new cycle, which is blossoming, abundance, technology, advancements. Life is better. And we're in a transitional phase. So according to ancient calendars, it was supposed to, like, the threshold was being crossed in 2012. And so we are essentially going through the transition phase at this time. And so what we're seeing is we're seeing a lot of way showers, we're seeing a lot of leaders who are going, this is what's possible for you in these new age. And a lot of people going, oh yeah, I want that. That's how I want to live. And we're opening up the timeline to the 5D. So I don't believe that it's been cemented. I don't believe like it's done. We're right at that transition phase. And so many of us came here, so many of us light workers were like, we need to be there on Earth at this time. We need to help people go through this stage, go through this transition. And that's where we are right now. And there's so much tension and there's so much polarity because we have these two timelines open now, where it's like, yeah, you can live in the past, or you can move into this new way of being. And it's creating massive polarity, which is really overwhelming. So at the moment, it's transition phase. But the good thing is, as we walk through it more and more, it's going to get better. And I deeply believe in a bright, abundant, beautiful future for humanity.
I'm so glad you say that, because I have a lot of my friends it's funny how the more you tap into the light workers round, the more you attract people that are like you. And they were like, we're supposed to be in this easy round now. Why is it so bloody hard?
Oh, yeah.
And that completely explains that we are in that transition period. And that's why there's so much talk about shedding the old and taking on the new. But before you can take on the new, there's a lot of shedding that needs to be done. So if somebody thinks that they want to, or they think, actually, let's go back one step. How do you know that you're meant to be a light worker and you're meant to do the work on this planet? Because I know a lot of people are saying, Lala, how do you just know? I'm like, well, I kind of just have that inkling. So maybe Athina can explain it a bit better than I can.
I love that question. And it's such a good question. And really, like, there are so many layers of it. The first there is a symptom that light workers do have. And it's this, I thought it was just me, right? When I first experienced it as a child, as a teenager, I was like, oh, it's just me. And then I remember reading Doreen Virtue, and she spoke about that feeling. And I was like, I have that. And it's the feeling, we get it like in our solar plexus, in our stomach. And it's feeling like, you know, when you have hunger or thirst, but it's not for that, but it's like, it's a longing, and it's like, there's this feeling of something's missing, and it's actually physical. And I used to have that feeling a lot, and I haven't had it in a long time. And when Doreen Virtue spoke about that, I was like, oh my God, that is like my soul being like, you're here for something, you're here for a purpose. And like, so that is one big sign, but then it's also the deep desires, right? So most light workers are intuitive, are very sensitive energetically. They have had experiences that are more spiritual aligned. However, that's not always the case. The real thing that like creates light workers is that there's this deep desire to help humanity. That is like this, getting goosebumps as I say this. There's this deeper purpose, and you know you're here for more. You know you're here for a purpose, with a reason, a mission. You're not just here because on Earth we have humans who are here just to learn. They are here purely for soul evolution. And then we have other people who are here to be of service. They have a purpose, they have a specific mission that they're here to do, and they're still learning at the same time, but they also have work to be done, and that's light workers. And we can't kind of not do it. It's who we are. And people ask me how I got into this work, and I'm like, I don't know. I've always been like this. Like, how could I not, right? It's just when we listen to ourselves and really connect to ourselves, and we go, I want to help people. I have something I want to share with the world that's going to help and support others. That's what being that light worker is.
That is so cool. Well, I know not all of my audience know about you, Athina, as intimately as I do. So tell us who you are. How do you come up to your spiritual path? I know you said you're always spiritual, but like, how did you actually discover that you are magical and spiritual, and all these additional things that you take on? Because you've studied a lot, and you really, in my opinion, you are a learner because you love to learn about all the different spiritual modalities. So yeah, how did you become Athina Bailey, the channeler, the Reiki teacher, and all the things? And what was the beginning of your spiritual path like?
So it's such a in-depth question, and I'll do my best to answer it. So I have been like psychic intuitive as long as I can remember. I can remember being a child, having visitations, having experiences. I remember like I think I would have been 8, because it was when I was still in Dubai, where I was raised, and my mom went to see a reflexologist, and I sat there and I drew notes, and I was like, meridians, like, what are they? I was just so fascinated, and I copied the meridian diagram, and then I was just like testing out, like practicing on my grandma. And so I've always been really drawn to it. And then like I remember at 12, I started spending time in the library and like reading all these books on Wicca. And it was just like, I had this desire, like I would hear spirituality, like metaphysics. And it was like, I would have this pull, and I couldn't really understand it. But I was very intuitive, like very psychic, and having experiences. Like my teenage years, I was seeing beings, seeing angels, having all of these experiences. And then at 15, like it just it went crazy. Like the doors fully opened, and I just went all in spiritual. And, you know, there were months where I wasn't sleeping, like in high school, because I was just being waken up by beings every night. I was astral projecting. I was meditating every day. I was healing my chakras. So that was my teenage life. And then I was kind of like, well, I know this is what I want to do. And I went and I stayed with my family in France, and I studied Reiki, which I fell in love with because learning how to work with energy, it was so supportive to me, and it was completely transformed my life. And then I got back to Sydney and I was like, I don't know what to do with myself. Like as a psychic, like I just want to help people. And I was like, oh, I'll go study psychology because that's what Doreen Virtue did. And I'll just be like a sneaky psychic with a psychology, really just helping people with my gifts. And I ended up studying that for 3 years, but dropping out because at that point, I was also studying NLP, hypnotherapy, kinesiology, and I had seen, and I literally just did a live on this, talking about anxiety, but I had anxiety for the majority of my life. And I had seen psychologists and studied it. Nothing was shifting. And literally like working on the subconscious mind and the core energetic root of it, I healed it instantly, like something that no psychologist had been able to do. And I was like, this is how I can help people. And so I just went all in, and working with people so much, like my psychic gifts just opened and opened, and they were already like pretty full on, but that's just where my channeling took off, and I was seeing clients and getting information. And then I was about 20, and like since then it's just been like coming nonstop.
I love how you say just been like, and really that's how I felt though. Like, and I often talk about when I first started meditation, I could only sit there for 20 seconds.
Right. Yeah.
You know, it was like and I remember you saying this when I did channeling Spirit Academy. We all have the ability, and it's really about, it's almost like a muscle that you just have to keep practicing and keep working on it. So a lot of my clients ask me this question. It's really interesting how we attract the same kind of client. They were like, oh, I want to start teaching people how to meditate or lead a meditation thing. And I want to do it like just as good as you do. I'm like, oh, thank you. But how do I do it? I've got my answers, and I normally just say to them, look, it's a muscle. You kind of need to practice on yourself. Then you can, once you're ready, you know that you're ready to teach other people. But what would you say? Is there a different twist? Do you see it differently?
If someone asks you, like, I want to hold like a meditation, essentially.
Yep. How do I start? Where do I start?
I love it. So as soon as we have that desire, like that's such a beautiful thing, because I want to do something that my soul is telling me to do, and I want to support people. And I think doing meditations, it's such a beautiful offering that we can give to other people. And one of the things that entails in that work is that we're holding space. And so I think that's where people kind of get the first time, because I've supported a lot of people hold like their first events, and they oftentimes get caught up in the holding space. And I see it more with my male clients and my female clients, because they have to learn patience. And I've run hundreds of courses in person, and there are times when there are students who are rude, and we just have to go, that's okay. Like, we have to hold space for them in love no matter what. And I think that is a big thing for people when they first start running events. They're like, oh wow, like I have to be loving in my heart and hold space no matter what. And it's very normal, like when you're running meditations. I remember when I used to run them a lot, I would have like one guy snoring really loudly in the corner. I would have 5 women crying in the other corner, and I would have to be like, love, good, everyone enjoy. And it's just knowing like how to deal with that and being prepared for it, and knowing that you're holding space for everyone to have different experiences. I run events where it's brought up so much stuff for people that like I've had to stay back and chat to them afterwards. I've been in a situation where someone is like, I can't deal with it, and actually left halfway through. So it's like, it's being prepared for holding space, especially if you're doing it in person, and knowing that as long as you drop into your heart and you have a desire to help and support and be from that heart space, like you can't go wrong. Like that's the first thing. If you're coming from a heart space, you can't go wrong. And then if you're practicing the meditation yourself and you feel confident and ready to share it, and you have that desire, then I think go for it. Like, even if it's, even if you're not an expert, even if you're just sharing like your own personal guided processes, it's still going to help someone. And if you have the desire, go for it.
I remember when I first learned about holding space, and I took it really literally. I was like, holding space.
Of course you did.
Right. You know me well. And I was like, oh my God, but the space is so big and I'm so tiny. How do I physically
I love that was your thought.
I know, literally, it was, I'm like, how do I just hold the space? And it wasn't until I started to learn, like, oh. So I just thought I'll share that in case there are some other people that are watching, and they're like, what does that actually mean? So for somebody who wants to start tapping into the spirituality, I know a lot of people start with meditation.
Mm-hmm.
What's your suggestion? What's your suggestion on if you have a desire to tap into, maybe you think you might be a light worker and you really want to tap into that spirituality route? What is a good first, second, or third step?
Such a good question. And it's interesting because generally I find that people, they start looking to spirituality and metaphysics because they're like, I know there's more to life than this and I'm disconnected from it and I feel like I'm not living in alignment with divine. Or B, they're like, I can feel I have a soul purpose. I'm here to do something more than I am and I want to tap into it. And so generally those are the kind of two things that I see. And for both of them, meditation can be very helpful because meditation, it kind of disconnects us from the noise, right? And it brings us into, this is what my soul is saying. Because ultimately, like anywhere we are in our spiritual journey, for whatever intention we have, whether it's to manifest, whether it's to live our soul purpose, whether it's to channel, it always begins with meditation. And meditation, not in the sense of like putting on Joe Dispenza, who I love, Joe Dispenza, like doing guided meditation, but disconnect, turn off everything around you and come back into what is my soul saying? What am I feeling like at my deep core? And it's when we disconnect from the constant noise and input that we're getting, and we start to notice, okay, that's my ego coming forward, and we start to just remove those layers. That's when we start to hear our higher self. That's when we start to hear our soul. And as soon as we create that connection, then it's like we can start to be guided by it. And this is where a spiritual connection builds. This is where it forms. So I think the most important thing for anyone who's like, oh, I want more, I'm here to do more, I want to be more connected, is to silently meditate. And like you said before, it is very hard when you first start with it, but it's setting the intention. And I would even be going like, what is it that you're wanting to get out of it? And for most people, it is a connection to soul and to spirit. So setting that intention for the meditations and just sitting there in silence. And it will be 20 seconds to start with, 100%. That was like, I can meditate now for like 40 minutes, no problem, in silence, no thoughts. But the first time I did it, it was also 20 seconds. And it's excruciating. And you're like, how the hell do people do this? Because there's like thoughts coming at you all the time. But you learn, and it's a discipline. Like for many of us, most of our society, we have very undisciplined minds in the West. You know, we're always on our phone, getting distraction. Our minds aren't disciplined. There are societies where their mind is very disciplined. Their mind listens and responds, and they say, no, you will not have that thought. And the mind goes, okay. But in our society, we listen to the mind, and the mind tells us what it wants. And it goes, this will feel good. No, don't worry about it. Do this, do this. And we're like, okay, mind. When really we should be listening to the soul, not the ego. And so meditation strengthens that and allows us to connect into the soul and then be led in our purpose, be led in our divine connection. So I believe that's the absolute first place, no matter where you're at, to get started with. And the thing is, like, the next step after that, it's going to look so different for everyone, because at that point, they might be going, oh, I want to learn to work with energy. And then they go study Reiki. Or they go, oh, now I want to like learn to talk to my guides. So they go do channeling. And, you know, for everyone, it's so different. For me, the first thing was Reiki and energy healing, you know? And so for everyone, and that's generally kind of like the first place I see people go to, just because it's tangible. That's the amazing thing about it. Like, people go do it and they're like, oh my God, like I can feel the energy. And they see like the physical responses. And then they're like, this isn't just like, you know, spiritual stuff. Like, this is real. And because they're working with energy, they start to heal themselves, they start to manifest, and they start to get more psychic. And then they realize there is a whole world out there for me. And it kind of just leads on and leads on from there.
That is so interesting, because I always felt I did it backwards. So I did channeling first. Then I did Reiki. So I guess for those people who don't know what channeling is, a lot of
Mhm.
people do ask me, like, you talk about you channel ideas all the time. What is it? What is channeling, and who can learn it?
Beautiful. I love this question. So for me, I view channeling as a psychic ability, separate from like a lot of people are familiar with clairvoyance or clairaudience. Channeling to me is a separate psychic ability, and it's one where we form a direct communication line with a spiritual being, our spiritual guides, our higher selves, whoever it is that we're wanting to communicate to. And we form a direct spiritual telepathic line of communication where they talk to us and we receive information. Some people will receive it through clairvoyance, through a spoken word, through art, but they're literally receiving information from higher realms and bringing it through into today. So it's very different than just like going to see a psychic, or a card reader or someone, because a psychic, they'll just connect to you, to your energy, and read off of your energy at the moment. They'll go, ooh, your energy feels blocked, or I'm feeling anxiety around you making this decision, that doesn't feel right. They tap into your energy. Someone who is a channeler bypasses your energy and actually connects up to your higher self or your spiritual team and goes, this is what they're telling me, not what your energy is telling me. So it's a very different dynamic. And channeling, you can channel courses, you can channel art, you can channel light language, words, and I know how much you're constantly getting ideas, and you're tapped into this vortex of ideas, and it's constantly just flooding through you. And that's a really beautiful example of being tapped into the higher realms to channel ideas. For me, my channeling strength is channeling guides, so I can connect to anyone's spiritual team and meet the guides, talk to them, channel their higher selves. I've got a trance channeling session right after this today that I'm doing for one of my courses. And so essentially channeling is forming a connection with the higher realms to bring through information, bring through energetic information that we can either speak, write, we get visions of it, but it's energy translators from higher realms, essentially.
That is so beautiful. And I love how you said that we don't all channel the same way, because I remember, and this is quite recently, right, when I was doing coaching with you, I just remember with this conversation one day, I'm like, I can't channel. You're like, what do you mean? I'm like, I don't channel the same way you do. You see them, you talk to them. I want to do the same thing. And I remember my guys were kind of laughing at me. They were like, oh, but that's because we don't talk to you that way. And that was that was literally my aha moment. I'm like, oh, so when you tap into my stomach and I actually kind of feel it in my stomach, that's when you were talking to me? And they were like, duh, yeah.
And it's crazy because it's I see it all the time. I have people in Channeling Spirit Academy who are like, I can't hear anything. I'm like, what's happening? They're like, well, I can see my guide standing around me and I'm channeling art. And I'm like, oh, yeah, that's great. Or they're channeling light language and they're like, but it's not the way I want it to look. And that's the thing, we are all so unique. We have our own soul blueprint. Some of us are really clairvoyant. Some of us are really clairaudient. And the way we channel is going to look so different from the person next to us. And it doesn't mean that, one's better or worse. It's that's our unique gift in this lifetime. And it's available to absolutely everyone, our own unique connection. And it's just learning to work with it and develop it, because I do believe it's available to everyone. I've never had anyone come to my courses and be like, I haven't tapped in at all. I've seen hundreds of people develop these gifts over and over again, and it's 100% possible for absolutely everyone.
I was gonna, that was one of my questions. Do you really believe that it's absolutely everyone? And for people who are like, I just don't believe in it. Is it more of a belief thing, or is it more of a gift thing?
It's both. So it's funny because I had one of the girls who's doing Channeling Spirit Academy this round with me. I've known her for a few years, and she's always been like to me, I want to channel, but it's just not working for me. It's just not working for me. And this round, she finally signed up for Channeling Spirit Academy, and I was like, good. And she's like, the first time she spoke to me, she was like, I keep trying, but it's not working. And I'm like, okay, so see how you go after Channeling Spirit Academy. And she just messaged me a few days ago, and she was like, oh my God, I thought that you guys maybe were making this up, but I just felt like my higher self come into my body and holy shit, this is real. Oh my God. And I was like, yes. And the reason with channeling is I teach a methodology. I teach a system. It's not just like connect and like set an intention. There are actual steps to do with it. Just like with energy healing, there are steps to follow. And the problem is people don't know. They just think, I'll just meditate, close my eyes, try and connect. But there are actual steps that go into it. And so when you have a structure and a system that's combined with energy work, because that's what channeling is, it's energy work. And because you are an energetic being, everyone is, like, nobody's not an energetic being, you know. Everyone can access and work with their energy. Everyone has chakras. Everyone can channel because everyone is an energetic being. And the way we channel is going to look very different. But I always say, like, there's no right or wrong way to channel, but there is a safe and an unsafe way. And as long as you're doing it safely, you have a teacher or guide to support you through it, like, you'll get results because you're an energetic being. And I believe that so deeply. And I'm one of those people as well who believe, like, you know, go see a doctor who believes that you can, like, heal yourself, or don't go see a doctor who's like, you have cancer, you're going to die. Go see a doctor that's like, you have cancer, we can heal that, like, for sure, you know. And I deeply believe that everyone can channel. So it's also like me holding that belief. That's the container. So if you are, like, working with anyone, make sure that they 100% believe, like, in your success and in your ability to do what you came here to do.
I was literally one of those people signing up to your first round. I think that was first round. And I was like, nah, I'm going to be the only person that can't channel.
And it's so funny.
Took me a little bit longer, but it takes a lot of practice. And, you know, I think really belief is that thing, because you believe in me and I kind of believed in myself. And I remember one of the ones was that we're meant to channel and draw. And I drew up this really amazing artwork. I was like, no, I made it up.
Yeah.
And it's just so often we doubt ourselves, right?
It's so normal because people, they're not used to, like, receiving, like, those connections. And so they don't recognize it. And the first thing they have is, like, this doubt come in, this, like, I got to be making that up. And I always say, like, when that really happens and we're really like, oh, I feel like I'm getting information, but I'm lacking trust, I say, ask the universe for confirmation. Because I remember the first time I ever sat down to channel my team, I said, okay, angels, what's your name? And I was told, I got the name Angelo. Like, I heard it in my head. And I was like, Athena, you're hilarious. Angelo, you're making this up. And I just, like, laughed it off and I went on with my day. And then the next day I went to Mind Body Spirit Festival. And there was a card reader there, and he was just pulling cards for free. And I'm like, oh yeah, like, pull me a card, cool. He pulled a card and he's like, oh, you have a new angel working with you. His name is Angelo. And I was like, holy shit. I was like, that was such a breakthrough for me. And I was like, that was my first confirmation of, like, oh my God, I'm not making this up in my head. Like, there is a connection there. And so when you're really doubting it, like, just ask for confirmation and it will come. Spirit wants to support you. Like, Spirit loves you. Spirit wants you to be abundant. Like, you're so supported. Everyone here is so supported. And all we have to do is ask for support. And if you're sitting there going, I want to channel, I don't know if I can, of course they want you. They're sending messages to you all the time. Of course they want you to pick up the phone and listen to them. And if you're struggling with it, well, they're going to help you. Like, they'll send you a confirmation in some way that's only going to make sense to you. And, you know, one of the tasks I give in Channeling Spirit Academy is ask your guides to give you a feather. And then everybody posts, like, oh, I saw a feather here, and oh my God, it rocked up in the craziest way. And
actually, I just saw a feather on my way home.
There you go. And so it's like we can get these tangible confirmations from them because they want to support us.
Actually, tell us about that story when you first asked for a sign.
Oh, yeah.
I love that story.
It's a cute story. I like it too. So I think I was 16, and I was on the school bus and I was reading a book about spirit guides. And it said in the book, like, ask your guides for a sign and they'll give you one. And I was like, yeah, all right, okay. So I was sitting in the bus and I was like, all right, guides, give me a sign. And I opened my eyes and the bus had stopped. And outside there was this big billboard and it just said, this is a sign. Buy a sign now. And I was like, well, wow, okay. That's on the
that
note.
is a sign.
Message definitely received.
And sometimes, like, I do say to my guides, look, I'm a bit sort of slow. Can you give me a bigger sign than normal? Yeah. I will say to them, whatever sign you give me, make sure it's, like, big and obvious so I don't miss it. And that actually works quite a few times.
100%.
Yeah.
And even just like sometimes we can be like, oh, I don't know, like I need a bigger one. We can ask for it. Like obviously, you know, we don't need to do 10 times because then they're just like, okay, you're not really like, it's lacking faith.
Yeah.
But we can ask for a bigger one and another one if we're not 100% sure.
That is amazing. So you talk about the dark night of the soul a lot. What is it? Because the reason I want to ask this question is sometimes people think the only way we can break through to the spiritual realm, the only way we can have breakthroughs is to go through. And it's really interesting, right? I think you really started talking about it in my world. And now it's just like everyone's talking about it. And really, I think it is a little bit of an overused term. And I really want to almost like misbust it. It's like the reason that we go and see mentors and go and see coaches is so we don't have to actually physically go through like rock bottom. So what is it really meant by going through the dark night of the soul in a spiritual way? And do we really all have to go through it before we kind of tap into our gifts?
I want to say that no, we don't have to all go through it, but pretty much every single person I've ever worked with has gone through a dark night of the soul before their awakening. And they're not all like horrific, like awful dark nights of the souls. Mine was literally when I was 16, 17, 18. Like, so it happened. And since then, like I've been really good and I've just been on the rise, but I did have a lot of horrific things happen to me at that point in my life. And with my boyfriend, for example, his looked completely different to mine, and it was still relatively good. Like it wasn't awful, but there were still quite a few traumatic things that happened during that time for him. And so what the dark night of the soul does is its purpose is to open you up and show you you're not on the right path. That's essentially the thing there. And it's all of us who are light workers here. It's like we have this, I want to say like a timer bomb inside of us where we're supposed to at some point in our life, some of us like it's our whole life, like me, like I've just always known that this is what I was here to do. Some of us, like we hit my boyfriend, he never knew. He woke up at 40 and was like, oh my gosh, like I'm here for something spiritual. And so it was literally like a timer bomb that went off in him. So it's really different for everybody and different times in our life. But the purpose of the dark night soul when it hits at whatever age is to show you this is not the right path for you. And for a lot of people, like if someone is here to be a healer and they're not at the path, very often the dark night of their soul will look like they will get physically sick to the point where modern medicine won't help them. They'll have to go study alternative medicine. And then 10 years later, they're a hugely successful alternative spiritual healer because that's what needed to get them on their path. That's an example that I see literally all the time. It's so
common. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's an example of the dark night of the soul. And pretty much every single person that I know who has gone through dark night of the soul, they go, oh, I'm so thankful for it. Like I wouldn't be where I am now if it wasn't for that. And so if you're already on your path, like you would have already gone through the dark night of the soul because it's what showed you, what taught you. It's where we get the big lessons and the big kind of awakening. And it shifts us away from a path that we're like, oh, I was about to take that path and now I'm heading down this path. And opens us up into our awakening and most importantly, aligns us to our soul purpose, our soul mission to do the sacred work that we're here to do. So whilst it sounds like scary and intense, it's a blessing because it's just going to open up the doors and you'll know if you've been through one, you'll know if you moved through one. If you haven't and you're panicking and you're like, oh my God, like I haven't gone through anything. Like if you have gone through, it doesn't necessarily have to even be traumatic. It's just something that's getting you off of the wrong path. And if nothing's happened to you, you might already be on the right path. It doesn't have to be traumatic either. So I don't believe that it's anything we need to stress about at all. You know, the paths are unfolding always perfectly for us. And I truly, truly believe that.
And I think also believe that the universe will never throw us things that we can't physically handle.
100%, 100%. If it's there in your life, it's because you know how to deal with it and you have the skills, the tool set to actually deal with it.
So last question, you taught me about spirit protections and spirit hygiene. How important is it and how does somebody do it on their own quite simply? because it's actually not that hard, and it's something that I have started doing every day. So if you could talk to that, it would be great.
Absolutely. So energetic hygiene and energy protections are important for people who feel like they have emotional dysfunction in their life. So what I mean is, if you are not emotionally stable, if you are like, I get these overwhelming like mood swings, these like, then suddenly I feel drained, then I feel anxious, there's something dysfunctional happening with your energy form. If you feel stable and good energetically, you know, you can walk into the city, you can walk into the Westfield, then you can walk home and your energy feels the exact same, you're not affected. Great, you probably have really good energy boundaries. However, if you're around people who you can feel are taking your energy, or you're allowing them to take your energy, you go to Westfield, suddenly you feel tired and fatigued and you want to go home and you feel like you need to recharge, and then you're just like reaching for the food because you're like, I need energy from something, and then all of a sudden you're having waves of anxiety for no reason, that's a massive indicator that the energy boundaries aren't in place. And most of the people who are super sensitive to energy like that are women, and most of them are empaths, right? And empaths, it's super common to be an empath, and you'll know if you're one because you're highly sensitive, and being an empath is a massive gift. It is often portrayed as a burden, but it is I believe it to be a psychic gift that once you learn how to work with it, it makes you a really powerful, effective healer. And I use my empath gift in my healings every single day. And an empath has an energy field that's different from the average person. An empath's energy field is kind of like tentacles, just tuning into everything. And so it's not so much about protecting our energy and going like shield, disconnect, shield, but it's actually about learning to manage our energy and going, what are we connected into that's not ours? What are we taking on that's not ours? One of the things that I like to teach people when they're first starting to become aware of their energy is, when we feel an emotion, the first thing to do is to connect to and go, does this belong to me? Because from and sometimes it happens with illnesses as well, which is like a whole another layer where they're struggling with something physically, and we tap in and it's like, whoa, this isn't even mine. Like, I've taken it on for someone. And if you're feeling anxiety out of the blue and you tap into it and you're like, it doesn't belong to me. Like, maybe you just saw your mom, or you just spoke to her on the phone, or someone's thinking about you. And then it's like, okay, we need to disconnect from that energy. And I recommend literally like cutting etheric cords, saying any energy that does not belong to me be sent back to whomever it belongs, and call back all of my energy to me as well. And so we're becoming aware of where our energy is. Not so much shield, disconnect, protect, but where is my energy and what is it doing? And once we've done that, we have to start to understand that this is not something that you can just turn off. This is a gift and a blessing for you to learn to work with. So if you are feeling a lot of energy and emotions throughout your daily life, it's starting to go, like, when it comes up, go, what is it trying to tell me? Like, why am I feeling into this? And it might be that you're starting to work with a coach and you're taking on all of your client stuff, and it's your body's literally telling you, like, this is what that person is feeling. And that is a blessing. Now, if you don't know how to work with it, it's going to drain you. It's going to tire you out, and you're going to be a mess for the rest of the day. But once you learn how to work with it, you can feel it, go, thank you, body, for showing me this, and letting it go. Because most people, most empaths, they take on the emotion and they hold it. They don't let it go. When what they need to be doing is going, out breath. And so when people first start to work with these energies that they're feeling, that's what I really recommend, is that they feel into it, they thank their body for showing it to them, and then they breathe it out and they release it, because it is a blessing and it's something to learn to work with. And like, just picking up a few of those energetic hygiene standards, even just like coming home, clearing your energy with sage, grounding yourself. I believe the 3 pillars of energetic hygiene are cleansing, protecting, grounding. Like, just doing that, if you are a sensitive empath, your life will change dramatically. And I always challenge it to my Reiki students. I say, clear, protect, ground your energy twice a day, do it for a week, and I guarantee you your life will be completely different. And for a lot of people, they come back and they're like, oh my God, I'm not so emotional anymore. And oh, I'm not feeling this anymore, because they're starting to become aware of their energy. And so a lot of the stuff that people are dealing with, the emotions, the anger, all of stuff, it's not theirs. It doesn't belong to them. It's not their conscious narcissist person. And suddenly they're becoming aware of that, and they're more in control and more stabilized as well.
That is so good. And literally that changed my life. Like for me right now, I'm doing a almost like a quest. So every day I come home, I will lay on grass, and that's just my clearing process, and it allows me to ground as well. And you know, even if you're not doing it for the sake of your energy, it's a form of self-love. It's a form of saying, hey, I matter, and I'm going to take care of myself first before I go and take care of anything else. So thank you for that gift.
That's so good. And I love hearing that, and that you're doing these practices for yourself, that you found one that really resonates with you. I love that.
So how do we work with you, Athina? Because I just want to share all of your magic around. How do people find you, and how do we work with you?
Thank you. So my website, athinabailey.com, or my Instagram, which is starseed_awakening. That's pretty much where you can reach out to me. And I have, for various levels of light workers, if you're just opening up, awakening, and you want to learn about energy work, I have programs for that. Or if you want to learn how to channel, Channeling Spirit Academy is my signature course. And then, you know, once, if you're looking for your soul purpose, the quantum activation, and then once you're actually living your soul purpose, you're connected intuitively, you're channeling, then I have business courses specifically for spiritual, for soul-aligned entrepreneurs to move through, to support them on their path, because their set of needs is very different to someone who is not a light worker. So offering various support for light workers at different parts of their journeys, and website or Instagram, the easiest way to connect with me.
Beautiful. Now, I do want to know, are you running any Reiki courses soon? I know obviously with COVID, in person is very difficult. And this is a bit of a selfish question, because I really want to do my level 3.
So it's interesting for the level 1 and 2, because generally we have more people come. We have between 10 and 12. It's been a little bit harder because a lot of the spiritual spaces have shut down. I have been running the level 3 and the masters just because we have space in our home for it, and we have a sacred temple space at home that's big enough for groups. So we are looking at, for the start of next year, to open up Reiki 1 and 2 for smaller groups, so 4 to 6 rather than the 10 to 12. So it'll be more intimate. But level 3 and master is still running for sure. Like, I've been training people just last month for it. So I don't always advertise it though. I get people message me, and then
sounds like I need to message you.
And then, because usually like I'll get 1 or 2 people message me, and I'll be like, okay, Spirit's telling me it's time, and then I'll organize one. But I'll start advertising, actually running it, hopefully start of next year.
Okay, well, you've got one for level 3 now, so anyone else want to do level 3? Come on.
Calling the name in.
That's it. Well, thank you so much, Athina. I just love chatting with you as always, and obviously your energy is amazing. And if you really want to tap into more things about energy, about healing, about channeling, check out Athina check her out on Facebook. There's a lot of information on her Facebook page, as well as Instagram, and also on her website.
Thank you so much, Lala, for having me on. It's beautiful being able to connect with your energy as well, and just seeing how like deeply connected you are to your purpose. And I just feel like you're so in flow, and so just like showing up as this beautiful soul-aligned version of you. And it's amazing, like getting to see you with this energy shining bright through you. It's so beautiful. So thank you so much for inviting me on today and getting to connect with you.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.